is ready to go. How you feeling, my man? You feeling good?
I'm doing well, getting through another week here, and preparing for Germany after this game. Travel on Monday, so uh, that's exciting.
Yeah. So you're looking forward to a little Wiener Schnitzel?
Yeah, I guess I have to get up on everything German very quickly here.
All right. So the panic on Tyreek, calm down now because everybody was panicking because he didn't practice yesterday. So, what's your gut tell you? Was it just a vet day, or is there anything underlining here?
Well, there's got to be something because you do report injuries on an injury report because a player is receiving treatment. So the team has to, under NFL rules, report that. So, and it wasn't just written as veteran rest, it was a hip injury on the injury report for his practice absence on Wednesday. So there is at least something there, but doesn't seem like it's something that is enough to keep him off the field. Tyreek Hill, who is always the optimist and always upbeat, said he's going to play. If I could quote him, he said, "Yeah, I'm good, baby." So Tyreek Hill is projected to be good to go by Sunday.
Yeah. If he's practicing today, he's playing. You
Yeah.
know, sometimes I could see the one where they go out there and try something on a Friday. That's a light day. That's the one that you can kind of say, yeah, that doesn't mean he's playing. You know what I mean? But once you practice on Thursday, for me, that means 95% you're playing. How about Ramsey? What do you think happens with Ramsey? I still think they hold him out this week. When I heard the press conference yesterday, and he said that they ratcheted up a little bit from him from scout team, that I almost feel like they're not really giving him a full week of practice, like all the way through. I think they kind of did the scout team last week. Now they did a little bit more, and then next week I kind of feel like they'll go full board and get him ready. But your thoughts? You're there. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean that could be it. So it's telling to not get any reps with the defense, and then finally now do that. So it would be a natural progression if they say, okay, well, we gave you now the regular practice week, even though although it'll be limited probably unless he has a full practice Friday, but he's limited on Wednesday and Thursday officially according to the injury report. But at least getting reps with the defense. I would have liked if he got a little bit of game action under his belt, even if it's not a start, even if he's not playing every defensive snap like the way a star cornerback normally would. If he got some action against the Patriots, and that would help you leading into that Kansas City week, a week that will also involve travel and then practicing abroad in an entirely different country, not let alone like last year they did the LA trip and LA they practiced at UCLA in between the games against San Francisco and the Chargers staying on the West Coast. This is just a whole other country that you're going to, so that would be sort of some difficult circumstances to go into your first game into. So I would like it if he could get some action, but it's totally understandable if he's just not at that point and ready. And Mike McDaniel's not putting any firm timelines on it. He just wants to see him progress and then let it play out.
I've heard that a lot from a lot of people. What you said, well, get him a little playing. Problem is, he's not going up against an elite receiver.
Yeah.
So it's not like your challenge is going to be incredible against Kansas City. You're going up against a group of decent receivers. The only thing elite there is the tight end, and you're not covering the tight end. So to me, it's not really like a test. Like, oh, dude, he's going to play Devontae Adams in 2 weeks. Is he? Shouldn't he do something? And if you're practicing with Tyreek and Waddle, and by the way, the other thing is this practice this week. It says limited next to it, correct?
Correct. Jalen Ramsey, yes.
There's no way they practice you limited and then they play you fully in a game. You know what I'm saying?
Not
So
coming off what he did, yeah.
yeah, I think next week he gets a full go practice and then he plays, against Kansas City. So I just think that right now it's the right way to do this and kind of pace this whole thing. But the challenge against Kansas City, you got to admit, it's not really any, Sky Moore and Cole Hardman and these kind of cats. These aren't household names, bro. You're not dealing with any nasty receiver that could give a. Put it this way: his practice receivers are a hell of a lot tougher.
Oh, well, that'll be the case against most receiving cores that he would face in comparison to the Dolphins, and probably all. I mean, it might and probably just all. Uh, but yeah, if you had a fully ready Jalen Ramsey, then that could be a weapon to use. Vic Fangio could maybe maneuver guys around. Remember, he played that star role with the Rams, versatile cornerback where he's not just a corner that you line up on the outside, but when you have him and really have him full go, then he's a guy that you can versatilely put, whether it's on an elite tight end, whether it's at safety at times. You can blitz him in the nickel, cover a slot in the nickel. Just so many different things you could do with him. So, but obviously he's not at that point where he's ready to handle so many different responsibilities yet. So just ease him into things, and the best would probably be to err on the side of caution.
Connor Williams.
Yeah, well, I'm optimistic about Connor Williams just because natural progression. If he was so close to playing a game time decision similar to Xavier Howard, then I would think by now, and how he's practicing on a limited basis throughout the week as opposed to missing one and then trying to get in on the next. And he's missed 3 of the last 4 games, 2 in a row. So now he's had those 2 weeks to get that groin in a better spot. So I would be optimistic on Connor Williams' play.
Okay, I like it. X.
X, probably a similar thing, just because with the same groin injury and 1 week off of it, he got to rest on it and was already so close against the Eagles. So I would venture to guess that he'd be likely to play. And maybe those guys are listed as questionable, but obviously it would be a better questionable than the questionable listing that they had going into Philly.
Isaiah Wynn, Eric Azukama, and Woods. All 3 are probably done for the year, correct?
Isaiah Wynn, okay, so he's definitely going to be out weeks. Now, I'm interested to see what the team does at the trade deadline. If they add an interior offensive lineman, a guy who could start at that left guard spot, then maybe, sure, you do go ahead and say, all right, Isaiah Wynn will shelf you, especially with the team being up against it with its 8-man limit on designations to return.
That's right.
Where you're going to have a decision to make at some point. So let me see. You also asked about Ezukanma. So because of the same
Chris
limitations,
Brooks.
And Chris Brooks. Yeah, probably with both of them, unless you get to a point where you have no other IR players, and once you get to, it's already been, you're in the final 4 weeks of the season, and you still have that one spot left, and maybe one of those, if it's a position of need because of another injury, you could. But other than that, there's so many valuable players that if they go down and they can return in 4 weeks and you need a roster spot, you need that flexibility to be able to do that. So I might leave either one of those on there unless at the end you can bring them back.
Yeah, the Isaiah one, when I say, because he said yesterday, and I quote, a long road ahead of him.
Yes.
That was not that did not sound good. That sounded like you're done for the year pretty much. Is kind of the way it sounded. And so I just kind of feel like, that's just a bad break for them, unfortunately, with Wynn. Craycraft, his window just started. He's so important on special teams and as a blocking wide receiver that he's automatic that he will be brought back.
Yeah, and he was one of those that a lot of us in what we write, we might have been analyzing the numbers on the 8 and saying, okay, well, you definitely have to do Teron Armstead. You definitely have to designate Devon Achane when he's back. And then sometimes maybe putting Craycraft in the next tier, like, okay, not your, but he for what you said, his blocking as a wide receiver, Wes Welker has said Craycraft is his best blocking receiver. So he's vital in that regard. Yeah.
And if you want the run game to succeed, you need as many people out there to block, and receivers have to block out in the open field, and they got to know what the hell they're doing. And Craycraft, to me, he's automatic for sure. I knew he would be coming back because they love him. He knows this. He knows the system pretty much better than anybody in that receiving corps.
Yeah, and that's another reason why Ezukanma would probably be on the outside looking in. So. Because they did just open the window on another receiver, so it would be unlikely that both of them are designated activations.
The hot button topic is Cam Smith and Channing Tindall, and for me, basically, it's not really complicated. There's nothing physically wrong with them. Now Cam Smith hurt his foot.
Yeah.
But overall, there wasn't anything physically wrong with them, and they're not bad kids. So it's not like some head case behind the scenes or anything. It just seems like 2 young men that mentally they're not ready yet, and they don't have a good understanding of what they have to do. To me, that's probably the only reason why those 2 guys haven't found their way onto the field.
Yeah,
Your
me and
thoughts?
you, Big O, we're on the same wavelength because I asked Vic Fangio today about those two players precisely. So with Channing Tindall, when I asked Vic, then he revealed today that Tindall has actually not been receiving any snaps with the defense in practice for
Right.
a while now. So that's intriguing to me. And he's not even really getting a chance with the defense. And really, when you look at it, he's liked what he's gotten recently out of David Long and Jerome Baker. Feels they're playing better. You have Andrew Van Ginkel, who now plays both inside and outside in the linebacker core, so he's a top reserve there that you could
Cam Good.
be versatile with. Yeah, Cam Good more on the outside, and a special teams contributor, but then also Duke Riley would be ahead of Channing Tindall, of
Another guy
course,
too.
in the inside linebacker on the inside linebacker depth chart. So just special teams for Tyndall right now, and that's where his focus is. Vic Fangio did say he still feels he has potential there, so I guess they're just trying to bring him along. Cam Smith, Vic actually revealed that the foot injury occurred last practice, so he had to go early and then missed today's practice. So now he's got an injury to deal with as well. But yeah, it definitely seems mental with him. Just that I would imagine, and this is just a guess because we can't watch practices and team reps, that he must be blowing assignments, blowing coverages in practice because we saw during training camp he's got the physical tools, and every practice it seemed like he had a pass breakup, and even if a guy had a step on him, he would show that recovery speed and make an athletic play on the ball. Had some ball skills too, but it's got to just be like you saw in that preseason finale against the Jaguars where he blew a coverage and then let a guy beat him deep. It's got to be instances like that that's really irking at Fangio as far as trusting him, and that Cam Smith has not earned Fangio's trust.
It's 2 years in a row. If people should learn their lesson already because Azukama had a great training camp 2 years ago, and so did Braylon Sanders, and so did the quarterback. And then when it came to the season, they were completely lost, overall. And the same shit happened with Cam Smith. It's so vanilla in the preseason and in training camp that it doesn't really challenge them mentally. But when it comes to the regular season, it's going to be a whole different ball game, and that's where Cam Smith is just not ready for it at this. And by the way, that's normal. It happens. Some guys get it quickly, and some guys it takes them a little while. Look for Channing Tindall. I feel bad for him because they changed the system on him last year. So, he probably would have made some progress going into year 2 of the system. He would have had more. Now you change it up on him again, and he starts at ground zero because the defense he was in is completely different than the defense he's now facing. And by the way, we're not sure if he fits what Fangio wants to do because he was drafted for another scheme, not this scheme. You
Yeah,
know, he might not be great at reading and reacting, dude. He might not be as good in coverage. He might be more against might be better against the run and the blitzing and, see ball, go get ball. That he might be that kind of dude. He might not be the guy that has to have, kind of like the Tua thing, with throwing anticipatory. Well, in coverage, you have to have an anticipatory vision of what they're lining up to do in offense, and you've got to be anticipating it. And maybe he's just not good enough at that right now.
yeah. And you're reading my mind today because I was also just thinking earlier in thinking about Cam Smith and the training camp he had. I'm trying to think who else I had. Oh, I had Savon Ahmed in mind. He's another one. He had a great training camp this year. Haven't really seen him. I mean, he was the
Or
number
the
two.
injuries too. Yeah.
Oh
Injuries.
yeah, that did happen. But yeah, even right before that happened, just kind of he was the number two, but wasn't doing too much. But he really stood out. I mean, he was out dueling Devon Achan, and then you see once Achan got in there, the difference. I was
Now,
remembering Albert
again,
Wilson. Yeah.
now unfair,
Mhm.
unfair, because Ahmed comes from San Francisco, so he already
The
knows the
system.
system
Yeah.
and he has familiarity. Whereas Tyndall comes to somewhere where now he had no familiarity with the first scheme, and he doesn't have familiarity with this scheme either.
Yeah, I mean that really puts a rookie behind the eight ball. New scheme. It's already tough enough to enter the NFL and learn a new defense and just how defenses operate. And
Right.
then you throw all that, whatever you developed mentally as far as that playbook from one year, and now you got to learn a whole another system again. But I mean that's one of the challenges in the NFL because a lot of guys, that's the way it's going to be. You're going to be a journeyman and go team to team, system to system. And I mean probably guys that run similar systems will want to bring you into the another team, but that's part of it. I was also thinking of Albert Wilson, my first year covering full time, 2021, that he was having an elite training camp and then was not seen much. So it just speaks to your point that
I
training
was
camp
I was
sometimes can be
laughing at
depleted.
everybody that was pumping up Albert Wilson, by the way. Okay, including my man Omar, who had him in the Pro Bowl. All
Oh,
right.
you had him in the Pro Bowl?
Well, no, pretty.
Okay, yeah,
I'm
exaggeration.
Cuban, bro. Remember, I
Yeah,
exaggerate.
yeah. Hey, same.
But yeah, but Omar had him like, and I go, Omar, he'll be lucky to make the team. It was like, bro, relax. It's Albert Wilson. And it's just, sure enough, it turned out to be Albert Wilson. It was just we have to stop with the training camp stuff. That doesn't, it's nice for them to have a good camp, but it doesn't mean that it's going to translate to the regular season, right away. It just doesn't, because the NFL is different, man. They challenge your ass, overall from week to week. They know exactly what you can't do, and then they're going to make you do what you can't do. And it's a completely different challenge than in the preseason, when they don't care and you're just playing basic coverages and everybody knows basically what you're doing. So it's kind of like street ball. That's basically what you're doing. There's no game planning that goes behind it. There's no thinking. They're not setting you up like they do as receivers and quarterbacks and pass rushers and things like that they learn how to set you up. Kyle Van Noy,
Oh, yes.
does he just want attention? Because you're laughing because you know what I'm about to say.
I saw the clip. Yeah.
Yeah, like, dude, nobody ever said that you were a source, and everybody knows you didn't talk to anybody, dude. Everybody knows you were like a king size dick, to be quite honest. Like, it's funny how he tries to throw himself in the middle of something, like when he was the last person anybody ever even wanted to associate with in the locker room, and he made it out that way. Correct?
No, I didn't cross paths with him in my Dolphins coverage. He was there the 2020 year, so
Okay,
I
that's
just
right.
jumped on the beat the 2021. So personally, yeah, I didn't get to know him in that locker room. I know him and Omar have had
Must
their
have
thing.
heard. You must have heard the rest of the guys in the locker in the press room laughing like, this guy doesn't even talk to anybody. What are you talking about, or whatever, right?
It's funny that we talk about so much in the media workroom, and that subject did not come up today. But I would have liked to hear from some of the guys that covered the team. I know Omar always called him Kyle Van Knott, and he had his little beef feud
Yeah.
with him too. But it was interesting, yeah. And then noting he did pretty much confirm, though, a lot of what a lot of us knew with between Flores and Chris Greer. That was pretty much out in the open, but just kind of another affirmation where he found himself in his experience with the Dolphins in the middle of all that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, Flores let it known to everybody how he felt about certain things. And so everybody knew that he wasn't a Tua guy. Like, everybody knew that Tua was up against, the eight ball, as they say, in that one, because, the guy didn't want him. What are you going to do?
It
What
seems
do you,
like it extended far beyond just opinions on Tua. It seems like it
yes,
was almost every player. Like,
yes.
yeah, it's like a debate, a battle between these two. Greer doesn't like him, but Flo does, and it seems like there was just disagreements on so many decisions
Well,
based on those comments.
Flores thought he was a personnel guy. And so when he had to deal with Chris, Marvin, and Reggie, it was almost like it almost was disrespectful in a way. And that's how he carried himself in that building. I used to tell the guys, the writers that would come on during that year, that in 2020, I would tell Omar and I would tell guys, go find out in the building. He's running rough. I would say exactly this. He's running roughshod through the building. And that's what he was doing. He was running roughshod through the building. He was raising hell. I want this quarterback. I don't want that quarterback. I want this guy. I don't. He was fighting them on all kinds of personnel decisions. And kudos to Greer, Marvin, and to Reggie, because they stuck to their guns. Because they're the ones that wanted Tua. He didn't. And so there was other disagreements and other players that he didn't want to. And they also gave him a couple players too in the process. But that was just one of those things that it was just the guy wanted to coach, he wanted to run the team, he went behind their backs, he wanted to get them fired. He wanted Stephen Ross to give him total power.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, he came from Belichick, and we know Belichick does all of the above there. So sometimes I always did feel he was trying to be too Belichickian, and that even going to the setting that I'm most familiar with is just sitting here in the press conference room, and he sort of with his own twist, his own personality of just being so dry, was just trying to comport himself the same way as Belichick does in that setting.
Except for Romeo Cornell,
yeah.
all the idiots that come from that tree have tried to be like that. And it's like, yo, dude, you guys didn't win the titles. Okay. Nobody's looking at you that way, dude. So don't act that way. But McDaniels acted like a king size asshole in his first go around. And it's not going any better for him now in his second go around. The Judge guy was a joke. Flo was a joke. And Matt Patricia with the stupid pencil and a bird nest on his face. Another guy that, it's like you're going to a press conference in a jumpsuit with a bird's nest on your face and a pencil in your hair, and you're telling a reporter that he has to sit upright.
Ooh.
It's like, yo, dude, you don't even dress right. You got a pencil. You can't even shave your beard you can't even trim that shit, dude. It's like you're going to tell somebody else, like you're a slob, and you're going to tell somebody else how they got to sit. You know what I'm saying? All of these guys have tried to be the Mr. Know-it-all asshole, and the problem is you're just an asshole. You don't really know it, and that's why they've all been burned, and that's why they all failed. By the way, every one of them have failed.
I always did enjoy Patricia just as a character on the sidelines whenever they went to him. Like, I remember just one time watching a game with my dad. I think it might have been Patriots Lions, and he's out there, and or maybe just times when he was defensive coordinator with the Patriots, and the cameras would go to him, and my dad couldn't believe a coach in the NFL, a high ranking coach, actually looked like that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that was an absolute trip. All right, what are you thinking about this game? By the way, I tell everybody on the investment side, take the Patriots. I don't think the Dolphins can give them 10 points. To be quite honest, I think Miami. I'm convinced Miami will win. Just like I was convinced last night that they would win too. But I said, give me the points. I'm taking the points because the Heat aren't. You're not giving points. And this one here is another one that I'm looking at, and I'm going, I think the Dolphins will win, but they're going to win by like 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 points. That's about it.
Yeah. And that's, if I'm being unbiased here, that is the way I looked at a lot of Dolphins-Patriots games when it was the other way, when the Patriots were always the contending team and the Dolphins were average at best a lot of those seasons, usually a game or two below 500. And then they would usually win in the home game in the series, though, against Brady a few more times than not, keep it close at least. So I always liked the Dolphins and the points in those matchups. So, but I mean, the prediction I did put in the Sun Sentinel was Dolphins 30, Patriots 13. I feel like the Dolphins will come out dominant. Now, I did a radio interview out in Boston, and they asked me my prediction with Tyreek Hill status suddenly up in the air Wednesday, and I told them, maybe like 24-17 if Tyreek Hill's not there, similar to the Week 2 game. But we already saw this team beat New England on the road, so I feel like now the home portion of that 2-game season series should go to the Dolphins. This one in between those Eagles and Chiefs games, I don't see the Dolphins playing down 2 games in a row, so I think they'll come back from that Eagles loss and just come out fired up to get some momentum going into Germany and the Chiefs.
Dude, did you rewatch the game?
The Sunday Night Football game against the Eagles?
Yeah.
I'm about like halfway through it actually, and I know this is deep into the week, but yeah.
It wasn't as bad.
Oh yeah. They played close, and the penalties had a lot to do with it, not getting any calls.
Mistakes,
how many players they were down.
Yeah.
There was a lot to it for sure.
No, but I would, dude. The reason why I was encouraged when I watched the whole thing, like I thought defensively, they did enough. In a way, and it was just really the offense kind of failed, and then you add the mistakes, it just, that just compounded the whole situation. And if you really look at it, the way I looked at it, and maybe Dolphins will call me a homer or whatever, and if you want, go ahead. I don't give a shit. But to me, the way I looked at it was, if you're going to turn the corner defensively and you're going to start playing more like this, because the linebackers flew around, especially David, and they really were doing their job overall. And if you can stay away from the mistakes, and if the offense can actually step up, because that's kind of the issue right now. It's, a couple times when McDaniel gets punched in the face with the Chargers and the Niners last year, with the Bills this year, and then the Eagles, you didn't respond in game. And that's a problem for me. And to me, that was my issue when I came out of that game, is I need more of the offense to respond in those moments. If the defense plays like it did on Sunday night, overall, I think you end up winning that game more often than not.
Yeah, Vic Fangio even said it. The defense got 10 points on its own. When you consider the strip sack, field goal position, those were 3, and then the pick 6 that Baker had. So that's 10 of the 17 points. So, yeah, you have to put a lot more on the offense. Tua had a chance, and then threw the interception, throw into the end zone. It was a
penalty that takes away the touchdown. Tyreek drops the touchdown.
One. No face mask on Cedric Wilson, that 4th down. So, yeah, there were a lot of little things. So the 2 touchdown final result was not really indicative of what the game really was.
Yeah, I came away with it a little bit more positive out of it, and I said, damn, it wasn't so bad, dude. I that night I even said the defense on the post-game show, I said the defense did enough to win the game. It was really more the offense. And, I know the problem was that at the end they got pushed around. And so but you can't lump in the end and say that was the whole effort the entire night, because it wasn't.
Yeah. And the tush push, of course, 4 for 4 on that. That's a play that's unique.
Nobody stops it.
Yeah,
Nobody
you can't stop it. Yeah. So you had that many 4th and 1s where a lot of teams then maybe they don't go for it. Different things could happen, but the Eagles, it's automatic. So natural game flow, that could work a lot better for you against a lot of other opponents, but just not the Eagles.
Nope, I'm with you. All right, what do you got going on the Sentinel so folks can check you out, my friend?
Yeah, it was just covering the Tyreek Hill saga. He's down and now he's back up again. Working on a little bit of looking forward into the trade deadline, what the Dolphins could look at, may or may not, if they just feel comfortable with the roster, and then just leading into previewing the Dolphins-Patriots game.
All right, good stuff. Follow him on Twitter at @DavidFurones_, and catch him twice a week here. He'll be back post-game, baby. Sunday, thank God, a lot earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're back on schedule. Then it gets even earlier the week after.
That's fine. I just don't want it later, bro. I just don't want it later.
Yeah.
Sucks waking up the next morning. You got to do another show. Yeah, damn. That puts a strain on the voice.
We'll still have a Monday night game later and a Friday night game later on in the season too, and maybe some flex. Maybe there's a flex somewhere.
Yeah, that's right. Just make my life a little harder. All right, David. Appreciate you, my brother. We'll catch up post game.
All right.
You got it, baby. Be good. There you go, David Furones. And of course, call our friends Welt and Rheaume 954-966-4640.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.